Welcome to the Ask Junior Daily Judgment Podcast. I'm Priya Sharma, and joining me today is Arjun Gupta.
Hello, everyone. We're excited to dive into today's important judgments. But before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our podcast if you enjoy our daily legal breakdowns.
That's right. Your support helps us reach more listeners and continue providing in-depth analysis of the latest court decisions. Now, let's get started with today's cases. Our first case for today is State of Maharashtra and Ors versus Pradeep Yashwant Kokade Anr. This case was decided by the Supreme Court of India on December 9, 2024.
So, Priya, can you tell us about the facts of the case? This sounds like a pretty serious one.
You're right, Arjun. This case involves two convicts, Pradeep Yashwant Kokade and Purushottam Dasrath Borate, who were convicted for the rape and murder of a woman working for an IT company in Pune.
That's awful. So what happened?
Well, Borate, who was a cab driver for the company, picked up the victim for her night shift. But instead of picking up another employee as he was supposed to, he deviated from his route. The woman's body was found the next day, and the post-mortem report indicated death due to shock and hemorrhage, with evidence of rape before death. Both convicts were arrested on November 3, 2007.
So this wasn't a random crime. This was a planned attack by a person who was trusted by the victim.
Exactly. And it's precisely because of the heinous nature of the crime and the breach of trust that the Sessions Judge in Pune sentenced both convicts to death in 2012. The Bombay High Court upheld the death sentence in 2012, calling it a rarest of rare case, and the Supreme Court confirmed the death sentence in 2015.
So, the death penalty was the initial verdict, but something changed.
Yes, that's where things get interesting. The convicts filed mercy petitions, first with the governor of Maharashtra and then with the president of India, both of which were rejected. But here's the crucial point. The High Court eventually commuted their death sentences to life imprisonment.
Why? What made the High Court change their mind?
The reason for the commutation was the inordinate delay in the execution process. This case throws light on the complex legal questions related to the rights of convicts facing the death penalty and the responsibility of the judicial system to ensure a fair and timely execution process.
So, what are the key legal questions at play here?
The court primarily focused on these four issues. 1. The effect of delay in executing death sentences. 2. Whether the delay in processing mercy petitions was justified. 3. Whether the delay in issuing execution warrants was reasonable. 4. The impact of alleged solitary confinement on the convicts.
Interesting. It seems like the delays in the execution process are at the heart of this judgment. What does the court have to say about that?
The court ruled that undue and unexplained delays in executing a death sentence violate the fundamental rights guaranteed under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which ensures the right to life and personal liberty. It emphasized that while there's no set time limit for determining inordinate delay, each case must be assessed based on its specific circumstances.
That makes sense. It wouldn't be fair to have someone languishing on death row for years without a clear resolution.
Absolutely. The court even used the analogy of a person suffering from a terminal illness, saying that the prolonged wait for execution can be as detrimental as the execution itself. It's the psychological distress that the condemned individual experiences that becomes unbearable.
I can see that. So what did the court find about the delays in this particular case?
The court identified several issues. First, there was a 5-month unexplained delay by the Home Department in preparing a note for the governor's mercy petition. This happened between July 2015 and March 2016. The court condemned this delay, calling it a casual and negligent approach by the authorities, showing a lack of sensitivity towards the seriousness of life and death matters.
Wow, that's a strong statement from the court. So there were more delays?
Indeed. There was another delay of 10 months in processing the president's mercy petition. The court noted that there were multiple unnecessary communications and reminders between authorities, and they were repeatedly requesting information that was already available. This again demonstrated an inefficient handling of the mercy petition process.
It seems like the court is really cracking down on these delays and the lack of efficiency in the system. What about the delay in issuing the execution warrants?
The court found an inordinate delay spanning from June 2017 to April 2019 in issuing the execution warrants. There was a 502-day delay after the initial letter was sent, and despite repeated requests from the prison superintendent, the Sessions Court failed to act proactively. The court highlighted that this delay not only violates the rights of the convicts, but also undermines the judicial system's ability to enforce its own sentences effectively.
So, all these delays in processing the mercy petitions and issuing the warrants are the reasons the High Court decided to commute the death sentences to life imprisonment.
Exactly, Arjun. The Supreme Court upheld the High Court's decision, emphasizing that the right to life under Article 21 is not just a theoretical concept, it applies to even those condemned to death.
So, what does this judgment mean for future cases?
This case sets a very important precedent. The Supreme Court issued several guidelines for state governments, prison authorities, and sessions courts to ensure a more efficient and timely process for handling mercy petitions and issuing execution warrants.
Can you elaborate on these guidelines?
Sure. The court instructed state governments to create dedicated cells within their home or prison departments to handle mercy petitions. These cells should have designated officers to receive and issue communications, and an official from the Law and Judiciary Department should be involved.
So they're basically putting in place a structure to avoid the kind of delays we saw in this case.
Exactly. The court also gave specific instructions for prison authorities, like forwarding mercy petition copies to the dedicated cell, ensuring proper documentation, and providing information about the convict's background. They also stressed the importance of accurate and timely communication within the system.
What about the sessions courts? What are their responsibilities?
The sessions courts are now required to follow specific procedures when issuing execution warrants. This includes providing notice to the convict before issuing the warrant, verifying if there are any pending legal proceedings, and even providing legal aid if needed. The court also mandated a minimum 15-day gap between issuing the warrant and the execution date to allow for final legal remedies and family meetings.
It sounds like the court is trying to create a much more transparent and humane process for dealing with death row convicts.
Yes, it's a significant step towards ensuring that the fundamental rights of all individuals, even those convicted of serious crimes, are upheld.
This judgment is definitely a landmark case, Priya. It clearly highlights the importance of the right to life even for those facing the death penalty, and emphasizes the need for a fair and timely execution process.
Absolutely, Arjun. It also underscores the importance of a well-functioning judicial system and the responsibility of the executive branch to ensure a fair and humane approach in these sensitive cases.
Before we sign off, we'd like to remind our listeners once again to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue bringing you daily updates on the most important legal decisions.
Absolutely. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for another exciting episode. Until then, this is Priya Sharma.
And Arjun Gupta, signing off. Thanks for listening to the Ask Junior Daily Judgment podcast.